I'm just jealous that you guys are out traveling.
It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, baby.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Light 'em Up Lounge. Thanks for joining. I'm coming to you live from Doha tonight. It's, I would say, a very sporty, rather humid and relatively hot, 40 degrees ish. That's Celsius, of course. So I do apologize if I look a little bit like Whitney Houston during her Brunei concert, uh, tapping my forehead ever so slightly with my napkin. But I'm very, very happy and honored to see all of you and have you all for an interesting panel discussion that we want to have today, given that I'm just coming to the end of my trip of the Middle East, visiting Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Bahrain, Doha, and we have an eclectic group of gentlemen with us here tonight. And together we want to talk a little bit about this part of the world, which is a blossoming and booming cigar market with a very long-standing tobacco tradition, but most certainly a most interesting and dynamic premium cigar industry and culture and community these days. To talk about all of this, I have invited some local heroes from the GCC, but also the one and only William Cooper. We were just joking before we went live. Will and I, we probably missed each other by 3 hours here in the Middle East. He was traveling all the way from the US. I was making my way here from Europe, and then we barely connected. We missed each other by just a moment. But I thought, what an opportunity to have Coop with us here on the show and hear from his experiences and his thoughts of traveling the Middle East and how he experienced the cigar culture here. Coop, always a privilege to have you. We didn't make it in Dubai, but here we are, connected virtually, enjoying a cigar together. Welcome to Light 'em Up.
Well, thank you, Ryan. It was interesting because I was in Doha first, and then I was in Dubai. So, and literally, I mean, our paths couldn't have been closer, and the odds of that happening. It was just unfortunate. Our schedules could not align. But this is the next best thing. That's why we have this. This is great.
We're here. That's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to hear about your thoughts, your travels, your experiences. And again, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Yep.
We also have with us, of course, helping me to moderate the whole session and talk about his journey, his experiences, and the Dubai scene. Ride from the Leaf Masters. Welcome, Ride. Been a while.
Hi, everyone.
It's good to see you, brother.
Always great to see you, and I missed you too. So it's the whole thing has been a cluster beep, actually.
I know it's tough.
Yeah.
As I said, here
Thank
we
you.
are. So
Here
it's
we
all
are.
good. And then I'm very, very happy to have a guest who's joining us for the first time here at the lounge, but a dear friend, a brother of the Leaf, a great partner and fellow along the journey, joining us live from Muscat at his beautiful, beautiful lounge at the Jetty, overlooking the coastline and the sea with a cigar in hand. Ashish, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Light 'em Up.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. Reinhard, am I audible?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity, and sorry to miss your earlier sessions. Happy to be here. And hello, everyone from Muscat.
So, what a wonderful panel, and what a group of fantastic gentlemen. As I said, it's really a topic that I wanted to address for a long while, and to dedicate a full show to this, I think is just appropriate and fitting and very important that we can talk a little bit about this part of the world and learn more about the dynamics here and the ever growing and very dynamic cigar culture here. Coop, I want to start with you. I don't know if it was your your first trip to the Middle East or the first in a long time now, but tell us a little bit about well, A, why you chose to come here, and B, what was your first impression and how did you experience the cigar culture here in the Middle East, along the travels that you explained earlier and the different stops that you had?
Yeah. So this was my first time not only in the Middle East but on the continent of Asia. So
No,
I kind of got to check off a box there and a couple of other countries of Qatar and UAE. It was a non-cigar related business trip. So I was there for non-cigar related business, which meant, basically a lot of meetings where I didn't have, a great schedule to do. Now, the one thing I'll really say is it was amazing to see a culture, another culture like this. I had never seen. I've been to Latin America. I've been to Europe, but again, this was just an amazing culture to see. I've not seen anything like it before. My initial impressions, it's much more humid in the Middle East than I ever thought it was. Right? If I was thinking it was gonna be like dry like Vegas, I was really wrong because there was some intense heat when I arrived there. Um, it it also I felt even though there's like a different alphabet and language, I was very surprised how English friendly it was in Qatar and in the UAE. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised on that. And so that was the other thing. I was also surprised how new these cities are. Like Dubai, and when I really started to think about it, if I go back to when I was in high school, Dubai really wasn't. It wasn't even talked about. It wasn't a major metropolis like it is now, and to see that city emerge and grow like it has, it's an amazing thing for me to see something like that happen. Over like a 25-year period. Cigar wise, we can get into it as well. Most of my cigar smoking was on my own, but I got plenty of cigar smoking in. It just didn't get into cigar shops because of my schedule. It was tough. So, but I did get plenty of cigar smoking, and I can elaborate on that as we go on.
Beautiful. Well, I think there's hardly any better person to talk about the development of Dubai, both as a city, as a as one of the UAE Emirates, but also about the cigar culture there, than Raid from the Leaf Masters. So, Raid, can you give us sort of a short rundown of you following and accompanying and contributing to, of course, the evolution of Dubai over the last decades?
sure, sure. Um, Dubai has been home for me for about 28 years. When I first arrived there, I remember certain parts of Dubai today that are considered within the city. When Emirates Airlines opened their main office in Dubai on Sheikh Zayed Road, we're like, they're opening in the Goonies in the middle of nowhere. Somebody did not do his homework. Today, when you see the growth of the city beyond that, further down all the way to Abu Dhabi, and on both sides, whether it be at the beach side or the other side towards the desert, it's mind blowing. It's a great city. It's growing. It's business as usual continuously. I love the level of security and safety that you have here. So 2017, and if you look at the cigar culture in general in the Middle East, there are three countries that dominated that. But mainly, it started off in Kuwait. You also have it in Bahrain, and you also had it in the UAE. So the three ages there that were doing the Cuban cigars pretty much over the past 30 years were very much promoting Cuban cigars. And so the market in general was very much focused on Cuban cigars, pure and simple. New World cigars was nothing that anyone had discussed or ever thought about. Comes 2017, I experience and I start tasting and experimenting in New World cigars. I love them, and we decide to get into this at a time where everybody was looking at us as if we came from another planet and saying, what the hell are you doing? Cigars are Cuban. are you guys sure you know what you're doing? Including my own father at the time. He was like, are you sure you know what you're doing? And I just love the quality. I just love the potential. I just love the cigars, the flavor profiles, the aromas, the construction, the rolling, everything. And so we decided to start the Leaf Master in 2017. I believe our first shipment was in Feb of 2018. And we opened our first shop in 2018 by December 15th of 2018. The experience so far has been mind-blowing, has been extremely humbling. What had started from 7 SKUs today and a single brand, we carry over 45 different brands. We carry over 950 different SKUs in our shop, and we're into pretty much each aspect of it. What we've realized is, as much as people initially were very much focused on new Cuban cigars, the fact that we focus on education and educating people and just removing the chip off the shoulder of cigar smoking and making it more enjoyable to the core is what made a huge conversion for a lot of people that walk into the door of our shop. So we're very humbled to say that we have like an 85 to 90% conversion rate of people that walk in that smoke only Cuban cigars. And lo and behold, today they smoke, their humidor is at minimum 50% New World cigars. And that continues to grow.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about the tobacco culture in the Middle East in general? Because historically, the enjoyment of various different tobacco products has been an integral part of social life here. And
correct.
As I can't necessarily say as a matter of consequence, but it feels that because there is such a fondness and appreciation of tobacco culture in general,
correct,
with the economic evolution, with the development of the UAE, what's happening in Saudi now, Qatar, of course. I mean, I'm surrounded here by skyscrapers and unbelievable development projects. All of that fueled, of course, by the World Cup and other activities. But the dynamic in the entire region is just outrageous, right? And you pair those two factors and put it in a cocktail shaker, and out comes a quite potent libation of premium cigar affinity, love, and appreciation that is quite astounding. So maybe you can talk us a little bit on a historical route of tobacco culture and how you think that translates into what we now see in the premium cigar industry here.
Sure. So tobacco is definitely, as you rightfully said, a big part of the culture in the Middle East from the early days. People consumed it predominantly, whether be it through cigarettes, whether be it through shishas or what they call hookahs and all of that stuff. And you have in certain parts in the Middle East, predominantly the UAE, and I believe Oman and partially Qatar, they have something that's called midwah, which is a very small thin pipe, and you put almost powdered strong tobacco on it, and it's like a single or two hits as you light it. The economic explosion that happened in this world, the exposure, the travel, the UAE and other parts of the Gulf, like Kuwait, like Saudi now, as you rightfully said, becoming growing metropolis cities, meant there's much more exposure, meant that people started experimenting in different kinds of cigars, which started in the Cuban cigars, and then now it's moving very actively into the non-Cuban cigars. Predominantly, it started as being something that's very much focused on men, but today, all different smoking aspects, you find women partake in that as much. Now, in certain places, it's not as common, but I can tell you in the UAE, it's very normal for you to go and find women smoking in different parts, whether be it their cigars or their shishas and all of that stuff. Some of my greatest clients and most frequent clients are ladies that come in and buy for themselves, for their husbands, or husbands that come and buy for themselves and for their wives. So there's a great exposure that's happening regardless of the gender or regardless of the preference. And there's obviously the economic situation makes it a more attainable habit, if you may. Now, what also contributes to the whole thing is the expansion of the lounges, obviously, and the places where you can smoke. I believe the UAE is much more tolerant than many other places within the Gulf or within the Middle East in terms of the allowance of where you can smoke and enjoy your cigars. Other countries don't really allow you as much, but in the UAE, especially in Dubai, there's a lot of restaurants that allow you to smoke as you eat, or bars, or what have you. Again,
Right.
that contributes.
Sorry
Please.
if I cut you off. I just wanted to add a bit of context there for people who are watching us
Please.
from Europe or maybe not so much the US, certain areas the US probably, but mostly old Europe. I mean, you know, there's nothing else but frustration when you think about where to smoke and where to enjoy your cigars in the old countries in Europe, Central and Western Europe in particular. Eastern Europe is a bit more relaxed when it comes to that. But then you come here, and as a cigar enthusiast, you're in heaven and you're in paradise. I mean, in Doha alone, where I'm sitting tonight, I could choose between 25 lounges that are at the highest level of their craft and beauty in terms of how they're decked out and how they look like. Here's Ashish, another prime example of a
Correct.
stunning lounge in the Middle East that just offers you a tremendous experience, and you feel like in heaven. So when you talk about the dynamic, and that's why I just wanted to add a bit of context to it, we're looking at one of the most welcoming, open, and cigar-friendly regions in the world that you could possibly imagine.
That's very true, and I think we're very lucky, and it's something that sometimes we take a bit for granted. Especially when, I mean, the sky's the limit when it's the good season, because you can smoke outdoors pretty much everywhere, on pools, on beaches, and all of that stuff. There isn't that concept where when you're in an open door, you have to be within certain proximity or within certain distances from entrances or what have you. Mind you, what I love about this part of the world is there's a weird component of when you grant the freedom, people become more thoughtful about how they actually smoke and consume their cigars. The fact that the freedom is there, people realize that this is not something that you want to abuse. On the contrary, you want to make sure that you're very thoughtful of the surroundings so that, you know, when you smoke, you're not bothering anybody and you're not in any way, shape, or form negatively impacting the freedom that's being extended to you.
I can only second that thought, and indeed, I have experienced nothing but respect, both from people who do not smoke at all and cigar smokers here, in the most peaceful coexistence where nobody bothers the other, and there seems to be a lot of respect and understanding, which just it gives you a very warm and, as I said, welcoming feeling, and that's quite remarkable. Whereas, you know, if I sit down in Austria, even on an outside patio, and I light up a cigar, there's a 99.9% chance that within 5 minutes somebody will walk up to me and ask me to put out my cigar because they're being bothered by my sheer presence.
We don't really have that here, and I love that, because people, you mentioned something that's very important, which is the coexistence component. And what's beautiful about it is, even if there's somebody next to you that's being bothered by you, because at least from my experience, I've been living here for 28 years. I've been smoking cigars for 25 years, and I don't recall a single incident where I had somebody explode next to me because I was smoking a cigar. They would come to you and, you know, very politely tell you, can you blow in the other direction? Do you mind if you change your table? Or if I move to that area, would I bother you guys because I need to move away from the smoke? So I never felt that there was anything aggressive or anything that is out of line by either party, mind you.
Ashish, I would love to hear a bit about your experience, how you see the culture, particularly in Oman, where you're currently and where you operate your business at the Chetty in Muscat. When you listen to everything that Rod and Coop initially shared, what's your thoughts on this, and how do you see that panning out in Oman?
Thank you, Reinhard. So first of all, Oman, I have been in Oman from last 21 years and been in the business of cigars from last 4.5 years, and a cigar smoker from last 18 years. When I set up my business, as Raid mentioned it, I will second that part. The market was very skewed towards the Cuban cigars, and that was the only Habanos were the only one which were available in the country through La Casa del Habano. So when I was setting up my business, the idea was to grow the portfolio in the market rather than being stuck with something which was already existing. And the change was something coming up steadily, where people were traveling, they were more exposed towards the new world cigars, and they were bringing it from their travel journeys and all. So that's how the journey started, while introducing the new world cigars into the country, and market was very receptive. With the population of 5 million in Oman and 55 to 60% local population, so the target audience was very clearly the locals who were quite comfortable and open for the tobacco part generally, with the families individually and gender-wise. Again, as what Raid was mentioning, it's the families which are going out and having smoke, or they're visiting some kind of a lounge to enjoy their smokes and all in the evening, along with dinner, after dinner. So the introduction to tobacco was something easy. And then educating the market about the new world cigars was a journey and the task which was very, very well received in the market. So in terms of my, it's a members only lounge which I operate, apart from 7 different locations where I've set up the humidors, offered a training to the staff of those places, which are mostly these golf courses, the clubhouses, some of the hotels, and some high-end shisha lounges. That's where I sell the cigars from. And then this private members only lounge, wherein people wanted some kind of exclusivity. They want some kind of a premiumness. So I'm in the Chedi Muscat, which is one of the nicer properties and top-rated properties in Oman. That's where my lounge is. We were fortunate enough to have Jeremiah as a first guest in the lounge, followed by Reinhard. So the cigar smoking population, interestingly, was 28-year-old plus, who were young audience. Approximately 75% of my portfolio is of the local population, which is Omanis, and they are younger audience. They are open for experimentation. So the brands which I carry in the portfolio, they were very, very happy to try it, experiment it. Their palate is pretty young, so they would like to get, they're intrigued towards trying out new brands. There's a very small population which are skewed towards Cubans. However, they were also opening up to the new world cigars because one, the supply of the Cuban cigars, it had a challenge. Second, the consistency of the cigars, that was another criteria, which made them venture into the new world cigars. And surprisingly, not to my surprise, but to their surprise, they were very happy to try out these new world cigars, which gave them the range, which gave them the variation, and definitely the price point of view. So these were the factors which made the introduction to new world cigars pretty easy. Younger population, open for experimentation, high disposable income. Then the challenges in the Habanos in coming to this, coming to any part of the world for that matter, and the range and the variation which new world cigars offer to the palate. So overall, yes, it has been a successful journey, and happy to be expanding it in the market.
Beautiful to hear, Ash. And I had the privilege, as you said, of visiting Oman. I had the privilege of spending time with you at the Chedi and at your wonderful lounge. What's fascinating to me is how different, yet at the same time, in certain areas similar, the different countries and territories along the Gulf feel. And Coop, I'm sure you experienced the same because you also had the privilege of traveling to different parts of the GCC here. What was your impression about the different dynamics and the intricacies that vary from one to the other? When you look at Dubai, but then you see Qatar, you see Oman, Saudi, they all have their different dynamics. What was your
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah, they definitely did. Qatar definitely was you can still see, for example, a lot of the influence of the World Cup being there for sure. Which when I was amazed at the size of these countries, how small they are, because these are smaller than some of the states in the US. And
Correct.
just going into Qatar and like they had a World Cup there. Like no one had to get on a plane like go around the World Cup. So they're very small countries, in terms of that. I gotta echo the thoughts on Dubai being so welcoming to cigar smokers though. It was like I said, I got to my hotel, and my first question getting to the hotel was, "Hey, do you have an area I can just smoke and enjoy a cigar?" Right? And it was hot outside. I didn't think I was gonna smoke. And they asked me, they said, "Hey, would you like a smoking room?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'll take a smoking room," right? Because and I have a look of bewilderment in my face when that happened because this was I was in a very nice hotel. And in the U.S., the very nice hotels, they don't have smoking rooms mostly anyways, if you're in far. So the fact that I had a place that I can go smoke a cigar, it was, given that my schedule was so tight, it was having a smoking room was very helpful, and I didn't have to go outside and in the heat either. And it was so accommodating. When I had a problem with the layover, going home, the airport was so above and beyond to help you. I was astonished again at the level of service I got. And these countries are just great service countries in terms of, the hospitality there was another dynamic that I have to compliment them on. It was really, they were very committed to just making sure I was comfortable and everything was comfortable with that. So, good things come in small packages, I like to say with these countries, but it was so impressive to see that dynamic at work there.
That's
Did
an
you get?
excellent point. And it's not like you just say, well, do you have a cigar room by any chance? And they'll be like, yeah, which one of our five would you like to frequent, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is when you say smoking room, typically my European mind goes into some crappy little shed hidden in the
Yeah.
furthest away corner
Yeah.
that's probably there to accommodate a few desperate cigarette smokers.
Yeah.
And here you talk about a lounge that feels directly carved out of 1001 Nights or some Arabic dream, and quite frankly, amongst the very best cigar lounges that you can find anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Also, I got to comment. The airports both had smoking lounges. Now they were more.
Correct.
I'll be honest, they were more cigarette lounges. Okay, but you know what? It was I only know one or two smoking lounges left in airports in the U.S. One of them is Miami, and it's kind of not even indoors; it's outdoors. So the fact that there were a couple of smoking lounges, that had at each of the airports, again, was another. I'll take it. Okay, it was cigarettes, but it was it be when you have a long layover in the airport, I'll take it.
One
Actually,
thing
what's
that I
funny
would
is
like
that.
to, sorry, Red,
so-
please.
Sorry. Actually, what's funny is that Dubai Airport in the business and first class of Emirates has a specific cigar lounge where you can go in
Oh,
and smoke
really?
cigars. And oh yeah, in the business and the first class. And that's why for me, it's an absolute joy whenever I'm traveling to go and have a beautiful 2 hour cigar, finish some work, get on the flight. I'm all ready. And that the ones down there for smoking are predominantly for cigarettes. You're right. I know the ones you're talking about. But
Yeah.
on the first floor, there's one in the business and the first, and they're absolutely stunning.
No, that's
I mean,
great to know. Yeah, I just took a change of shirt when I got on the plane, so I didn't so it wasn't too bad. But
No.
otherwise, that was it. Yeah.
and Coop, to your point about service, and just a little sidestep, not necessarily cigar related, but if you ever hop on a plane with Qatar Airways, Emirates, Etihad, you name it, you sit in economy and you feel I never want to fly business class with Lufthansa again or any of these other airlines. It's really surprising, shocking to a certain extent, but at the same time, very very pleasing if you happen to be part
Oh,
of that experience.
yeah, and I lucked out. I got one pretty good upgrade into first class on the trip, and I got spoiled. But you're right. I had the seating I had was pretty good in terms of leg room. When I wasn't in the first class. So
One
yeah,
thing that I want to also add, and that sort of struck me when traveling the various countries is even though you feel a common thread and a common theme culturally, not necessarily cigar culturally, but culturally in general, you you still have very unique characteristics and intricacies in the various
Correct.
countries. Dubai by far is the most open and international and thriving when it comes to tourism and in particular, when the nightlife, the hospitality, everything that's happening in terms of entertainment. But then you come to Doha, for example, and you immediately feel that it's more traditional, it's calmer. Same for Abu Dhabi. It's much calmer, very peaceful, almost laid back. And here's Ashish and Oman. You have uh, a much higher percentage of local peoples, of Omani people that you would see in a cigar lounge, and the conversation shifts and feels very differently. Where in the UAE or particularly in Dubai, you sit with people from all over the world, and there's just such an overwhelming amount of expats doing business or who have
Correct.
moved to Dubai, and that makes for a very interesting dynamic. And for me, that was the most beautiful aspect of it all, to explore the various different countries and see how culturally they offer a very different experience.
I agree with you on that 100%. That's a really good point. And I got to experience, the business I was doing there on top of that was very much it was a worldwide meeting I was a part of. So layered on top of that, we had people from, India, Asia, Europe, and the Americas kind of all converging on this to begin with. And right, there are a lot of, what we discovered is we all knew expatriates there from various regions of the world, which was kind of interesting too.
It's amazing.
How
I've lived in Kuwait, uh, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, which pretty much is the majority, I mean, of the seven GCC members.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more about the difference yet the similarity as far as the cultures are concerned, and as far how one city might feel more modern than the other. The Dubai model, however, has been very intriguing and very interesting because you're pretty much living, as cliche as it might sound, in a melting pot, in an international global melting
Yeah.
pot of people, where you have your freedom. Everybody has their freedom. The level of security is unbelievable, and people just observe and respect the different traditions wherever you come from and wherever what you do. There are
I
certain
want to second
basic,
that thought, right? I mean, I've heard it from people all over,
yeah,
and here this is a common theme that whether it's in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, here in Doha, I know for a fact, Ash, it's the same with you in Oman. You cannot underestimate the the level of, of security that you feel and comfort
correct.
you feel walking the streets at night at 4 in the morning, no matter where
Yes.
you are. You know that nobody's going to bother you, nobody's going to harass you, and
Yep.
in terms of quality of life, that's just remarkable and really something that we're not used to. When you live in Europe nowadays, and for you in the US, I mean, you feel like you're in a different world when it comes to that.
Yeah, New York's probably the melting pot I'm most familiar with. I grew up in New York, and unfortunately, it's not that safe feeling anymore. I have,
Yeah,
especially I've been up there. But Dubai, again, I'm in this strange land. For me, obviously, I've never been there, and I was amazed how quickly I felt safe there. And being a New York guy, you have your guard up always, but I got the sense it was safe. I started hearing from other people, when I met them, it was safe. Now hearing it today, I felt reaffirmed. So it was absolutely amazing. And again, you're talking a city, what is it, like 3 million people? I mean, it's a big city, no matter how you look at it. And to feel safe like that, it was a good feeling.
Ash, how do you feel all of that sort of translates into smoking behavior, or how does that translate into the cigar culture? And I'm curious to hear from you in particular with, you deal with a lot of local people in Oman. You have a much higher percentage of local population compared to Dubai, where it's a truly international crowd. Do you see that somehow reflected in not only the conversations that you have at the lounge, but also how people feel about the cigar culture and the cigar industry in general?
So, as I started with, the cigar culture is still yet to be getting onto the developed stage. However, they are always very open, very receptive. So we keep on hosting some of the cigar principals. They are always very excited to come across, and they are not kind of embarrassed to say that, yes, our palate is very young, and we would like to know more and more about the cigar. So the topic of conversations, discussions, whenever they get an opportunity, they are willing to learn. They are willing to try out new stuff, and they are generally very curious about understanding the entire tobacco culture, cigar culture primarily. It's starting with the right way to enjoy your cigar, the right way to choose a cigar based upon the palate. Don't be a label horses and all. So overall, yes, there is a learning curve, which they are very open, very receptive, and within whichever age group. So as I told you, more than 50% of my population is the younger audience, which makes it great for the business in terms of they are keep on buying and experimenting with new stuff. However, the old school lot which is there, they are also very open and curious to learn about the culture, the upcoming trends, the new launches, the new brands which are coming in the market, and getting it some or other kind of, whether they put their finger on the Google and know about the cigar, know about the brand, uh, having an understanding on the right ways to enjoy it. So they are being very, very receptive and open. So they don't come with a closed mind, is what I will say.
That's a good point. Cool. Maybe something that you can address from your perspective, coming from the US. We spoke about a lot of the positive effects, how welcoming all the entire cigar community is in the GCC. One aspect that, of course, is a bit challenging is probably the availability of product, and of course the price point, compared to the US. When you had a look at the humidors and the selection of cigars, what was your perception and your feeling there when it comes to the choice of product, what people are into in general, and the conversations that you had with people at the lounges about their cigar choices and what was available on the shelves?
So, in fair, when I always get this question, I got to be very, very honest. In the U.S., we are really spoiled with some of the large retail stores we have. We have some enormous amounts of retail, like giants. So it's always hard to compare another country to that. That being said, the big thing was the price points were pretty high. And it was nothing to say that, like, especially like duty free was incredibly expensive even at Dubai.
Mm.
A box of Padrones 64s was going for about $740, which is quite high compared to the US. I saw my father's cigars in there, which were that was the regular my father's, about $490. And I did see some Cubans in duty free, and I was going to pay over $1,100 starting for those. So the prices were high. I was expecting though the higher prices. There's different. I get there's different importing and stuff thing, especially with the non-Cuban product, the way it's kind of distributed. So I expected that. Unfortunately for me as a tourist, it's not a place where necessarily I'm going to go back and like. Did I want to get a box of Cohibas to come back to the U.S. with? Yes. Did I do it? No, it just wasn't and obviously that's a big risk I'm taking, spending over $1,000, and who knows if it will make, I get it back or not. So I don't want to say I was disappointed with the selection. It was kind of what I expected. That being said, I was still surprised. Like I said, even my father, for example, I haven't looked at my father as much as an international brand. And I saw it there. There were some smaller brands I saw. I saw El Septimo, which is a brand that's kind of been gaining some steam in the U.S. I know that they originally were based in Switzerland, but I saw some of that product there. So I was surprised to see some product. I wasn't surprised necessarily that we would have the same selection that we had in the U.S. though. And certainly the prices didn't make it conducive for me to bring back anything. Anything limited, I couldn't really find. It was all gone.
And to put some perspective to this, for all the international people watching us, and in particular people from the US, the reason for the prices here mostly comes down to the taxes and duties, of course.
Sure, yeah.
Which are incredibly high in a lot of the countries here. And as you said, though, it's surprising, very positively surprising, as to what kind of selection you have at your disposal if you frequent the right places and you find the right humidors. So that paired with what Ashish and Raid were both describing in terms of the enthusiasm and the excitement of the people there to try different things, to look for new brands, to discover new experiences to be had. All of that makes for a very interesting cocktail. And the price, as you said, or as we mentioned, a consequence of local challenges with taxes and duties, of course.
Absolutely. And, again, you're going, we always talk about it here in the U.S. Cigars are a luxury experience. I get it. So certainly we are spoiled a lot. As much as we sometimes complain about things in this, we're spoiled. And you're right, you're dealing with import taxes and customs things, which make it very difficult. On the other hand, I like the fact that people in this part of the world are getting to enjoy like a My Balsa cigar or a Padron, or or something like that maybe they haven't been getting. So I was more, especially I guess again I go back to my father, the penetration of that becoming a global brand now really kind of was setting in with me as I was looking in some of these humidors, and I started looking to see what the global brands are right now.
On that note, Coop,
yeah.
when you talk to all the major manufacturers and people in the industry, what's the feedback that you're getting from them on the manufacturer and brand owner side when you have those conversations in the US as to how they look at the international market, and in this case, particularly on the Middle East and the GCC countries?
Yeah, I mean, really what they all come down to is getting distribution that they can trust and work with a distributor. And that's always the big thing, is if they can kind of get that arm where it's someone that they know they can really rely on, they're excited to get into these new markets. But sometimes that's more challenging. Getting a distributor sometimes is challenging. Because some distributors can't take it on, others, just aren't as reliable. So they really come down to getting a good distribution partner. So that's kind of what I've seen. I looked at Perdomo as a great example. I've seen how they've expanded into Europe, and they've really worked hard to get good distribution partners. Whether it's in Italy with Toscano, they got now UK distribution. So I think they've taken it. But smaller brands sometimes have a much more hurdle to go do that with, because it's just tougher.
One thing that I have to add to that is I think it's also a responsibility on the side of the brand owners and manufacturers to not look at those markets as merely an afterthought, or where you think it's enough to sit down with importers and distributors from this part of the world for half an hour or an hour at the PCA trade show or during Intertabac in Germany, and then you think, sorted, here's my distribution for the GCC. You have to go there. You have to spend time there. You need to invest yourself in building the relationships, exploring the culture. And that's what I found so refreshing and very enhancing, to be here and sit with the people, spend time with them, and understand their culture, their mentality, the philosophy, and how business is done here. Because looking from afar and thinking that you understand the Middle East, the GCC countries, and the cigar industry there just won't do the trick. So as much as I agree with your point, and that it's probably a challenge sometimes to find a reliable partner and to build those long-term relationships, when the US as a home market is probably by far the easiest to deal with, because you don't have to worry about regulations, de la rue, track and trace, taxes, duties, you name it. But you couldn't just consider all these markets an afterthought and allocate a few percent of your production there and then think things will work itself out eventually, right? So it's really something where I feel you have to invest yourself, you have to spend the time there, and honor and respect those relationships and build them on the ground.
Absolutely, Reinhard. I agree 1,000% with you on that. And as you were saying that, I had some things coming to mind. Good example. There's a small brand in the U.S. You guys may have heard of it, called West Tampa Tobacco, and that's Rick Rodriguez's brand. Now, Ricky did something very unique that really doesn't get talked about. He actually launched very heavy in the international market to begin with, and then and as well as the U.S. And he I know he went to Europe and spent time there, and I think that probably made it why he was able to do that. So your point's spot on with that. There's no question. You just can't just hold, okay, I'm gonna send some product to you, and then you're gonna try something. You can't do that. And I think it's great what you're doing with your brand right now, which to me, when I heard you were there, I'm like, wow, how exciting is it that Meerapfel cigars are going to be coming into this part of the world? They absolutely belong there. So good job by you. Yeah, you're 1,000% right. I should have. I didn't mean to leave that out, but I agree. There's no disagreement for me on that.
And thanks for Coop for bringing that up. And I certainly think that for the Meerapfel family and the Meerapfel cigar brand, of course, the whole dynamic presents itself slightly differently, because we're talking about an old European family and the legacy that not only spans hundreds and hundreds of years and generations, but has always been built and is firmly rooted in, first of all, the European culture and notion of elegance, but the international relationships and the distribution that spans, it embraces all these various international markets, and how strong the cigar culture is there, really. And that's why it was so incredibly important for me to dedicate today's show to broadening our horizons and our vision, and really see what's beyond the plate. And so often, we get caught up in discussing the US market and the dynamics. And a lot of the international markets, for sure, are looking into the US and what's happening there in terms of trends, new brands that are coming to the market. But I think we have to refocus and reshift our perspective every now and then, and truly take into consideration what's happening in international markets and the dynamics that are there, also because the culture and the history is truly there.
Yeah, and it was, again, you look at, there was a World Cup in Qatar. The other thing we're seeing in the sports world is boxing. Saudi Arabia is becoming fast the big place now where all the big fights are. So you have these cultural things happening in the Middle East, and there's huge opportunity for brands like yourself to, bring in cigars to surround these types of things. And granted, a lot of people, you guys are global, but the education piece is so key, especially with the Meerapfel brand. There's such a story behind that. And as people in the U.S., I've learned that story. I see how they're like responding to that cigar, but they have to kind of learn and understand that what that story is first. So it's very important, I think, what you're doing, especially in the part of the world you just spent over a week there. So yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't mention golf because golf and cigars go together like a hand in a glove.
Oh yeah, that's the other
There's
one.
a
Yeah.
lot of golf. Yeah,
I
there's a
should.
lot
I
of
mean,
golf too.
I live in golf country in North Carolina. I always say golf is probably still, if it's not the most popular sports, in the top 2 or 3 here. Yeah, absolutely. Great point. And right, that's now based too out in that part of the world. We're seeing a push. So yeah, great point.
Coop,
Right.
when you were there, did you feel that the historical component, the storytelling aspect, everything that you just rightfully mentioned, plays a more important role for the cigar enthusiasts and how they make their purchasing decisions compared to the US?
I think so. I think so because, again, if you're new, and I've dealt with, again, in my meeting I was in, and people wanted to have a cigar, what's their first thing they want to go? Well, why do I want to have a cigar? Well, I want to have like a Cuban because I know it's Cuban, but why would I want to have a Padron or my father or a Fuente or something like that? And there's things you could kind of talk and explain, some of the, history, especially with Opus X with the wrapper, uh, et cetera, Pepin with Nicaragua. And I find when I start telling, and don't get me wrong, you guys probably work day in and day out on the manufacturing brand and can do it better. But I find I always have a captive audience with that. I'm never boring anyone with this, right? Especially if they're a newer smoker. So I found that was very, just having simple conversations where I didn't try to ramble on too much, was very receiving. And it's something it was beautiful to see that in another part of the world for me. I hadn't really on an international trip. Most of my international travel has been to the producing countries. So to see it like in this type of a world, I've been to Europe a few times, but this one was much more. I saw it more firsthand here.
A question on this to both Ash and Ride. Do you think that is a consequence or a question of the majority of the market or the mentality of the market, if that makes sense?
Okay.
Right, I'll go after you.
Thank you, sir. Let me answer that in a different way because I want to shed some light on a couple of points that we've just discussed. The UAE has a taxation system that means that you pay 220 to 250% compounded taxes on your cigar. 100% is on CIF as customs, and 100% is what they call excise tax on your retail price. And then you have the 7%, what they call municipality tax, and they have a 5% VAT. That's a wholesome amount of taxation being put into that, because if you look at the numbers at the end of the day, a good 60% of your sales is pretty much going in the form of a taxation to the government. However, the business is growing like crazy. So what does that mean? Is it because the misconception is people are like, oh yeah, of course, people in the Middle East have money. No, it's not about that. It's about a culture that's growing, majority, if you may, where people are realizing that there is something in the quality and in the overall flavors and aromas and all of that in the New World product that they are very interested in checking and experimenting, especially that there is availability in the market and it's over there. The second thing is with regard of the overall perception, okay, it's not really viewed as a negative thing vis-a-vis the Middle East, vis-a-vis Europe or the US. I find it, I was just visiting and I don't mean to be personal with this, I'm just stating facts. I was just visiting my daughter in New York, and it was just unbearable how everywhere you go, you smell weed.
Yep.
Everywhere you go, you smell weed. You come out from the underground, the subway, and you're high as a kite. You know, you're like, that's it. I'm done for the day. I feel good. And you, by the time you leave your you already have the munchies. So it's really fun. Yet, should you light up a cigar, people will trash you left, right, and center. Mind you, the person that's rolling a joint and smoking with it and walking with it is perfectly fine. So I think people in our part of the world have accepted the fact that smoking is part of the culture. Okay, and it's all about the majority feeling that, I don't know how to put it, acceptance sort of provides harmony within the society rather than people spending their time being angry at one another, if that makes sense to you.
Very much so. Ash, do you want to add to that? Or?
My perspective, generally speaking, yes, the cigar smoking population, it's growing population, and I was very pleased to see that there's a bunch of women cigar smokers who used to come to the lounge mostly to buy gifts for their partners, spouses, father, and they genuinely got interested in the product, which they have seen their respective family members is smoking and all. And obviously, it will start with something. I want something which is very mild, which will not have much of an aftertaste. So they were genuinely interested. And in the last 4.5 years, what I have seen is that now they are getting onto something that, okay, give us something which has some flavor profile, which can leave some aftertaste. And they are not discreet about their purchase. They will sit in the lounge, they will enjoy the smoke. The taxation part definitely it impacts the purchases at times, especially when they are premium cigars. However, it will not get into that. They might not buy a box, but they might buy a couple of sticks to try, and then they will come back again that we would like to have some more of those because we loved it so much. So yes, the taxation plays some kind of a role in the purchasing of a box vis-a-vis sticks, but it does not stop them for letting them try the premium cigars, and they are open for those because everyone, they love stories behind it. And some of the cigar brands, including the prime most being Meerapfel, not because I'm part of this show, but yeah, we all know that Meerapfel has been one of the prime most when it comes to the story behind the brand. So that has been received very, very well, and people like to hear the stories, know more and more about the brand which has this story, because they are your captive audience. Once they are in the lounge and they light up a cigar, they're there for at least 45 minutes to 1 hour to 2 hours. And they have that all the time. They are relaxed. They are smoking that cigar, understanding the history behind it, understanding the hard work, the labor, and the story which is there. So overall, yes, it's an interesting set of audience which are not deterred much by the taxes, and they are open to hear their stories and try out new things.
Allow me to touch on the international aspects of the brands also while we're at it. I wanted to touch on that point because Will also mentioned that, and he's very right in his thought process. 2017 or 2018, I should say, when we first started, we started with Oliva, AJ Fernandez, and then we started adding my father's cigars, DH Boutique, Ashton, El Septimo, etc., all the way to where we have today with over 45 brands and what have you. It's interesting, when we first came, I remember Nicholas Melillo the first time I met him, and he's like, dude, I can hardly supply the US. I don't have time for this. I'm like, look, Nick, I'm in it for the long term. Kept on nagging on him for a year or two. Eventually, we have Foundation, and he's just shocked by how well Foundation is doing in our part of the world. Before, it was a bit of a challenge for us to, okay, fine. So Dubai sells itself, I agree. But it was a bit of a challenge to convince people from the US to travel all the way to come and do events here in Dubai and what have you. I have Aladino landing in a couple of hours, the JRE, Yours Family. and they're spending 3 days with me. Before Intertabac, I have 3 or 4 brands that are passing by, and another 3 or 4 that are passing by after Intertabac. All of a sudden, people are realizing the value of international markets. For the first time in God knows how long, we have somebody like Drew Estate creating something for the international markets and having the ability, the Liga that is for the international markets. So there's a lot of, and especially in our part of the world, they're realizing the change in the culture, they're realizing the consumption, they're realizing the change in the numbers and the growth in the numbers, and they've finally have decided that this is definitely worthy of our attention. It's really beautiful to see somebody like Reinhard definitely pioneering an approach as such, and many brands are to come, which is great news.
I wanted to bring in Oleg, who had his hand up for a while, and he had a question, I believe. Oleg, good to see you, and please chime in with the question.
Hello, my dear friend. Hello, everyone. Glad
Hi.
to see you in healthy, and also I decided to wear glasses as you all almost. So I'm already 40, so I can allow I have allowance to wear glasses. Well,
Glasses are fun.
yes, and this is glasses of my grandfather. It's almost 100 years, and I just changed the lenses. So I also have very nice experience working in Saudi in 2019, and I think I was one of the first guys from Ukraine and maybe from Europe, not Muslim, and to have an entrance to Saudi. We work with the it was a Winter at Tantora project, very famous for now, in a very ancient pre-Muslim city, Alula. And they invited me as a cigar expert, working with Nobu Lounge. We present in some special area, Nobu Hotel, which should be open in Riyadh. And also I was under protection of Prince Saud Al Saud, the brother of Mohammed bin Al Saud. And it was a very, very very difficult because I go to nowhere, and concerning the safety, I was really afraid to be killed, to be jailed, and it was actually before the Christmas Eve, and I thought that I should bring the little flask of whiskey with my baggage, and they said, no way. If you'll be jailed for 5 years, don't do this. And I said okay, and almost 4 months without alcohol was very hard, but huge quantity of Arabian coffee with the cigars I used, and also right, you say about Medvach, this one.
There you go.
Yes, I bought there. It's a kind of tobacco matured and actually fired on the sun, 60 degrees sun, and plus some spices. It's I tried to smoke it several times because my cigar is almost finished there, and it was really awful. But I was survived. Concerning the cigar business in Saudi, it was very tough because as you already said, of dramatically high taxation in Saudi. I think 300% or something like that. and the cheapest cigar costs like $100, and a lot of people wish to buy, especially foreigners, because nobody except my area was no cigars, and you can bring, I think, 30 or yes, I think 30 cigars with you in your luggage, and but I actually bring 100, and was not jailed. I was so surprised. So concerning security, it was very uh, very dangerous actually, because they have I think five time prayings, and even in day when you go to some restaurant to have some meal, and for 20 minutes before the namaz, they closed all restaurants, and take your bill, and you can sit outside and drink coffee with cigar, but in the prayer time, if the police will catch you, you will be jailed for 5 years. Fortunately, we have some governor protection, and during the prayings, we sit outside, and police come to us, and we smoke cigar and say hello. So it was really nice experience in Saudi, but they have no New World cigars, only Cuban cigars, and that's the main problem actually with the old Middle East. But I think during several years the situation will change, and changed already. But
Oleg,
I think,
if I may,
yeah.
just to add my perspective from the last couple of days and trips that I had before this as well, I think it already has changed. And I one thing that I have to add, I mean, here you have great examples of representatives of non-Cuban cigars in the various countries. Also, Cuban cigars, you know, it's a beautiful balance. You can enjoy both these days, and there are people who enjoy their Cubans, people who enjoy their non-Cubans, and that's really not the point of the whole discussion. But I certainly felt that there's a dynamic now of opening up and a very welcoming environment. And another thing that I have personally experienced is how tolerant and and welcoming these countries are to foreign ideas and people coming from elsewhere. One example that truly struck me was the House of Abraham here, where you see in the most beautiful way a peaceful coexistence of people of different beliefs, different origins, and if you really trace it back, sort of, you realize that we all come from the same source and the same root, anyways. And to further enhance that, even, you know, this is the one thing that brings everybody together, anyways. And this is the biggest unifying piece of magic you could possibly imagine. And I experienced that over and over again. You come to Qatar, you go to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Oman, and even Saudi these days, where there's definitely a dynamic and a booming scene, and everybody comes together. We all sit down, we light up a cigar, and we're all one. And that's what always fascinated me about the world of tobacco and handmade premium cigars. And it became even more apparent for me on this trip yet again. And Coop, I'm sure you experienced the same, as to how those countries in general are opening up tremendously, welcoming people from outside. And then on top of that, the cigar is what brings everybody together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely what I saw with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
And also,
The level,
yeah.
sorry, the level of tolerance and coexistence that's available in this part of the world, especially during the current days, I think is very commendable and exemplary. for the rest of the world. And there's a lot of things that are changing, whether be it the laws, the regulations, to give people the peace of mind and the comfort to live in our part of the world is again very exemplary. On the flip side, as far as cigars are concerned, I'm actually very proud of the level of maturity Dubai has reached, because in my humble opinion, a market starts maturing as far as cigars are concerned when not only they focus on the mainstream brands and the big brands and the big names, but they also start experimenting with boutique brands and smaller batches, and people start coming into your shop and asking what's new, what's happening, and all of that stuff. I mean, I'm looking at the people attending, and I cannot help but to see Gabby, Dr. Kafi, and I have to tell the story that when we first had the cigars of Gabby or Dr. Kafi in the shop, I did not know what to expect, because it's quite boutique, it's quite particular. A lot of people do not know that this is an Aurora production, etc., etc. And the kind of reflection or the kind of response I had for the cigars was just amazing and mind blowing, and so I think there's a level of maturity. Different countries within the GCC have different level of maturity as far as where the cigars are concerned. As far as the New World cigars, I believe by far the UAE is in the lead, followed potentially by Oman and Qatar. Saudi is definitely getting there, but it's just a matter of where the legal system is vis-a-vis the importation process of cigars. It's unfortunate that a couple of countries in the GCC have decided to apply the track and trace, which is so not applicable to our part of the world. For example, the UAE said, you know what, we're not applying this. But unfortunately, Saudi did, Qatar did, which is sort of impacting the growth and the maturity pace of these countries vis-a-vis New World cigars.
If I may, can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Very well indeed.
First of all, it's a
Welcome, Gabby.
pleasure. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you all from all over the world. I see some familiar faces. Joe Hozempa, it's a pleasure. William, everybody here. Raid, of course, Ashish, God bless you guys. I got to tell you guys that
Gabby.
the industry is, it's all about Andy. What's up, man? Good to see you.
You, brother.
Um, perspective, right? I look at what intrigued me about today was the topic of the culture of cigars with the Middle East. And when I think of the word culture, I think of indigenous traits to the land, right? I'll give you an example. Things like food, things like spices, things like something as simple as putting cardamom in your coffee, which is something that's not done in the United States. And I grew up in a home where your espresso had cardamom in it, right? It's delicious. So I think that the palate of the Middle East has a different perspective. And that's what I personally find most intriguing. I believe that pleasing such a palate that is so exposed to such a diversity of flavors is a bigger challenge, in my opinion. I'm not saying one palate is better than the next. I just think the perspective of the Middle Eastern palate when it comes to cigar connoisseurs, I think it's a different mentality. I will tell you one thing I've noticed about connoisseurs in Kuwait, in Bahrain, Dubai, any of the UAE countries, even Saudi Arabia, the retrohale game is very strong. I'll repeat that.
Yeah.
The premium cigar connoisseurs in the Middle East, I have not met one that does not retrohale. This is a different level connoisseur, a different experience, different it's just mind-boggling. I don't know if it's because they've been smoking cigars for 400 years or but many cultures have been exposed to premium cigars. I just find it very for me, if we can do well in the Middle East, I think that's a huge accomplishment. So for us, it's a tremendous honor. I just wanted to say those few things. It's a privilege to be here with you guys. And the refined connoisseurs are the ones that decide which brands stay on the shelf and which ones have to pack it up and go away. So for us, we're honored and we thank you all for the support and love. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
You know, Gabby, if more people in the Middle East, in the United States, in Israel, smoked cigars, there'd probably be a lot less wars. It really would. It's the great equalizer. And, people are so concerned about a little piece of land instead of sitting down and sharing and smoking a cigar and sharing conversation. I hear people all the time criticize this person because he's Muslim, or criticize this person because he's Israeli, or so on down the line. And they're sitting there smoking cigars together and they don't have an issue with each other. It's just the governments.
I think those are the wisest words you could have said during this session. For us, the topic hits home. I think we all feel, any good human being feels the pain of any war. And, we've done a lot of praying. We've done a lot of trying to stay positive throughout all this because I think there's two topics that once you throw, it's like imagine if you're making soup and now in the you're throwing in politics and religion and you're trying to make a soup that tastes good. I've never seen a successful dish come out of that mixture. So we have to respect one another. We have to be humble and we have to learn that we are all the same. As a doctor, Dr. Ben Carson once gave a great speech where he talked about how he was operating on the brain of a human. And when he took the top of the skull off, he couldn't tell what race, ethnicity, or religion that person was. So I really pray and hope that we can reach that level of, I'm at a loss for words, you guys.
Go to Shakespeare and Shylock. Okay. He explained it the best. Do we all not bleed? Do we all not if you tickle us, will we not laugh? If you kill us, will we not die? However it was put. But it's the same basic thing, it's just bewildering. We're in 2024 and we have all this shit going on. And the thing that baffles me the most, Gabby, is that the majority of the people, I can only speak for the United States, smoke something. Either it's cigars, cigarettes, sheesh, or whatever. And you have a few rich people who think it's dangerous for you to make up your own mind about what you want to do. And they're the ones fighting to make everything illegal all over the world. A cigar smoker is different than a cigarette smoker or a vape smoker. We're not going to sit there and throw our butts on the ground and leave them there for the trash guy. We're not going to sit there and if someone's eating, smoke a cigar because we know it'll destroy them or hurt their meal. It's a different culture. And the problem is we get lumped in with everything, I mean, I have a lot of friends in the Middle East and they smoke whatever is they're enjoying. And they recommend to us and we recommend to them and they're enjoying the recommendations. It's never discussions about politics or religion, maybe sports,
You know, Andy, I think I see my dear friend Jeremiah on here. Always such a handsome fella. Look at him. We uh we just spent some time together in Tampa and celebrating Carlito's birthday. Very special evening. And I
Sorry I
think
missed that.
what we have to do, guys, is set the bar high. And we have a responsibility to pave the way. Um, we really do. This call is a perfect example. People from all over the world. And tobacco is a beautiful substrate for bringing people together. So is coffee. Coffee has a similar effect.
Oh yeah, it does.
You know.
Which reminds me, you owe me some more coffee.
Yeah. Yes, sir. But
Gabby, I think you hit the nail on the head, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to host this show today. I think we have an obligation to share with other people the experiences that we have, the positivity and the hospitality that we experience in different places, and the variety, the diversity of cultures that we're experiencing. And we have to be open and welcoming towards that, willing to listen and learn. And as I said before, I mean, for me, it's trips like these that remind me not only why the cigar industry and the humble cigar is the most magnificent ecosystem and the most wonderful product out there, because it brings everybody together, but it also reminds me of the tremendous responsibility that we all have in being open towards other people, other cultures, learning about their history, their background, what drives them, what inspires them, share that with other people. And then at the end of the day, we all come together as one, and we can always learn from each other, sit down with each other and have a cigar at the end of the day. And Will, that's also why I'm so happy that you're on the show with me today, because you experienced that also. And I think it's the perfect example of how traveling all across the world and exploring different cultures and the cigar culture there is one of the most beautiful and magnificent learning experiences. So we're
It
blessed in that
was.
sense, but we also should never forget the responsibility that brings with it, and that we should take that back to our home country and to wherever is home for us, share that with other people.
Yeah, and to echo the other point that was made, the politics never came up once during
I
when I was
agree,
there. Never came up.
100%.
It never came. I didn't feel, and you hear various things about politics between different, but it never came up. And it was. I was kind of worried it might, but I had confidence it didn't, and it certainly didn't. And it was a great thing. It was great to see that.
We seen any fights when we've been at the PCA, and you got people from all over the world there.
Yeah.
you know, the one thing I do want to say, and I'll let the people that are, I'll say with sand in their feet, the people that are back home in the Middle East. One of the things that is truly very humbling for me always, even with our family, our ancestors, my father's side, my mother's side, is the hospitality in the Middle East. I think that adds a separate layer of culture to the whole cigar industry. I know, Reinhard, you met with the Khalifa and I believe the Al-Zayani brothers.
Yes, absolutely.
Their father, Don Fayek, was a Habanos distributor for 42 years.
Correct.
And his children now are on their way taking the reins. And we've had the privilege of hosting one another. And that's the one thing that I believe that should not be left out of this conversation is the fact that anywhere you go in the Middle East, the hospitality is to the max. Do not compliment somebody on their car, they will give it to you. Do not compliment somebody on their watch because they will take it off and hand it to you. I'm not
Nice
kidding.
to know.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
I have a I forgot the brand of the lighter. It's that what's the brand? DuPont.
Oh,
I had a friend come over maybe a couple months ago. I had one, he had one. I liked his because it was a torch. Mine was a soft flame. I made the mistake and I complimented his lighter. So he left it. He wouldn't take it. So this is one of the I find it so comical, but it's so beautiful. The hospitality. They will give you the food from their plate. They will give you their bed. They will give you because they want to make sure you are treated like royalty. It doesn't matter the amount of money they have. What matters is your comfort and your happiness. So let that resonate on the rest of this call. I don't know, William, what were your experiences with hospitality while you were out there?
Incredible. In fact, in my non-cigar world, I'm dealing more with the hospitality space, so it's something that I'm very cognizant of. And
Wow.
Gabby, you were right on the money with that. I didn't ask someone for their watch or lighter, but maybe I should have, right? Because I do kind of got that feeling as well. And we didn't even talk about
the car.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, my Mercedes Uber was pretty cool at a regular price too to get ride the Mercedes Uber. And so if you talk about things expensive, the Ubers were really nice there at a good price. Oh, and we didn't even talk about the food. The food was unbelievable that I had in Dubai. I just had some amazing foods from different parts of the world. So I was in love with the food there. I mean, I know my blood sugar went up from coming back on that trip. So yeah.
Jeremiah, your hand has been up and you haven't said one word.
I'm practicing on not interrupting. I know I haven't been very successful in the past, so I'm practicing. Listen, I can't get on a call and listen about stories of the Middle East without taking my hat off and congratulating the superstars that have made the change happen. We have two of them on the call today. We have Raid, we have Ashish, that are boots on the ground and that have dramatically, and when I say dramatically, I mean dramatically changed the cigar landscape in the Middle East. Some of you know, some of you don't. But in the last 60 years, the culture was, for the vast majority, built. The premium cigar culture was in the vast majority built in the Middle East by gentlemen such as Raid and Ashish. I remember when I was a kid that there was uniquely a small elite in most of the countries, including Saudi, including the UAE, including Lebanon, including Oman, a very small elite that would enjoy premium cigars, which mostly they were purchasing in London at J.J. Fox's when they were traveling, or in Paris at Mathieu, or wherever it might be. And over the years, thanks to certain people in the regions, one of them being David Tang in Asia, the other one being Ali and his brother's father in the Middle East, another one being Mohammed Mohebi's father in the UAE. These guys started changing that landscape very, very slowly. And today, the young generation, Ashish and our friend Raid, who have made a leap forward, which is honestly, it's incredible. And I've seen this happen over the years since my grandfather started developing the Eastern Hemisphere with Cuban cigars, and then slowly the Dominican cigars coming in the 1960s, and then Fuente coming in the late 1970s, early 1980s, 1980s it was, early 1980s, and then so on and so forth. So if we're sitting around this table having this discussion, Thank you, Raid. Thank you, Ashish. And you've given a tremendous opportunity for a lot of people to be able to build communities and to be able to build friendships and to be able to build memories and moments and everything else that's happening. You're the guys who, when you arrived, there was very little of anything, and who today are sitting back and benefiting on many levels of your enormous accomplishments. So I congratulate you and thank you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
And it's nice to see Oleg. I was getting worried there, Oleg.
My friend, nothing's worried about me. I'm still alive.
Yeah, I think we're all happy to be alive today, but it's good to see you.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
it worries me because when you talk about bringing whiskey to Saudi in the early 1990s, then
Yes.
I don't know what's more dangerous: sitting in Ukraine under the Russian bombs, or drinking scotch in Saudi in the early 90s.
Same thing, my friend.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You can die immediately.
Exactly. Which leads us to another point. Let's have
Yes.
plenty of drinks and plenty of cigars and enjoy ourselves while we're alive.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. Well
I
said.
forgot to tell the fun story. The last one just several minutes. When I
By the way, this is
yeah.
the moment when Jeremiah on the Professor Show would say, "This is broadcasted out of Basel, Switzerland." Okay, so
So the fun story was when I met the Prince Saud Al Saud. We talk about everything about he told me about this is a very big problem in that time, that a lot of people in Saudi smoking cigarettes and shisha or hookah, but not smoking cigars, and he loves cigars. Even the majority of Muslims not provide smoking by religion way, and he told me that he will plan actually to build some areas you can allow to smoke very nice cigars and drink even alcohol. But these special areas only for foreigners, and maybe in Jeddah or something like that. And I gave him a special cigar made for myself with brand Safonov Fufu with double F. And also I present him the new world cigar from Robert Caldwell called Blind Man Bluff. And he was so excited, and is thank you. Next week I was departed from the country.
Oh.
And I was actually didn't understand, but I didn't kiss any princess, any girl, and any Saudian girl, even not a shake hand with her. I was very under control of myself for any kind of crime.
Oleg, it has
yeah.
nothing to be with under control. They knew your intentions and they were right to kick you out.
Yes,
It's all
and
about the intentions. Be careful.
after
Your
after
intentions,
yeah.
Oleg, are not pure,
Yeah.
and don't try to convince any of us.
After 2 weeks, there was COVID, and all borders was closed, and I didn't understand. I was underpaid for my next 2 months of my contract, so it was a huge money for myself. But I was happy that next 1 year, any of our team cannot go outside Saudi Arabia. So this was a small present from the prince to me.
So the country was on lockdown with COVID 2 weeks after you arrived,
Yes, yes.
and you didn't get the message.
Yes, and the team who was work with me with Nobu Hotel, they cannot leave the Saudi during the 1 year.
Oh wow.
So it was like inshallah.
Oh wow. What an experience.
In the spirit and in the light of building bridges and sharing wonderful stories and sharing our experiences. Um, before we come to the end of the show, I wanted to ask Coop and then Raid and Ashish. Coop, you just experienced various parts of the Middle East. You've been to different countries in the GCC. You coming back home now, what are some of the memories and the experiences that you take with you, and what are some of the learnings that you would like to share with the people back in the US, whether it's cigar related or not? But what are some of those key takeaways that you would like to bring back home as a gift and share with the people around you?
You're on mute, Willie.
Rookie move here. Okay. Yeah, so I was saying, being that the hospitality and the warmth is something I really like to have take back and hopefully just apply it to everyday things that I do there. You just learn little things like that. It means so much. And maybe if I gripe about things sometimes, like costs and stuff, I should just think again with that. It's certainly an eye-opening to experience another culture. And I love sharing the stories about what I've learned about this culture. In the week it was only a week I got to experience it, but it felt like a month in a lot of ways because of you know, again, just it was such a different part of the world there. So I would say that, and I would also say build a little more time if you're gonna do if you have stopover flights. Don't cut it close. I did going back, so I cut it way too close. So don't rush to get because it's tough and it's a grueling trip. 8 time zones we're going back, so uh I never try. I mean, I've done 6 time zones on an overnight flight. But 8 was a lot. So it's something that, I'll just pace myself a little better when I do it again. And I think there will be a time I do it again. So I'd like to go back. Yeah, I'd like to go
You're
back
welcome
again.
anytime.
Yeah, no, I didn't get, I didn't have a lot of personal time on this trip, unfortunately, and I wish I did. So I kind of would like to do some more personal things, and it's certainly something. Like I said, it's on my. I think I'll be going back to Dubai though, based on last week. So whether it's business or personal, but regardless, I'm going to build a
Yeah.
personal component on that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, Coop, first of all, you now had a glimpse or a snapshot experience of what it means for all of us to come to the PCA and travel across 9 or
Oh,
10 different time zones.
oh my
And
goodness.
second of all, here's a resolution for you and I. We'll plan a trip to the Middle East and we'll spend some proper time together in Dubai, host a whole bunch of crazy cigar events,
Yeah,
and we won't miss each other again here.
I,
We'll make it deliberate and we'll make it on purpose and we go there
yeah,
together.
yeah. I'm in on that. Oh, one other thing I want to mention. For people who work in the cigar industry, right, whether it's in the US or internationally, my hat is off to you for the amount of travel that you guys do. It is, I mean, Ryan, I know you're doing it internationally. A lot of the reps in the US do a lot of this local, plane travel and all that. And I kind of goof about people at airports sometimes. But my hat's off to you for the amount of travel and amount of time that people spend on the road. It is rough. Okay, I don't travel nearly as much as a lot of people in the cigar industry do. And again, my hat's off to them on that. Thank you for what you guys do, because I could tell you from this type of taking a trip like this, I can really appreciate what these people do day in and day out.
Thank you, Coop. And please allow me to add to that. Out of my humble experience, there's something very, very rewarding about meeting people all around the world, sit down with them, have a cigar, have a conversation. And then when you see not their cigars light up, but when you see their eyes light up with excitement and joy and positivity and the gratitude for having that experience, sharing the cigar and sharing that conversation, it's extremely rewarding, and it brings back a lot of energy and excitement, and it makes all the effort, all the hassle, all the air miles, and all the queues and waiting hours in airports worthwhile. So there's something
Yeah.
beautiful and magical about that, and I wanted to share a sparkle of positivity on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm going to be sure to thank people when they do the events like this, and more, because it like I said, it is hard. And like I said, I don't nearly do it as much as you guys do it. So my hat's off to you guys.
So Ash, right, I would like to ask you the same question, sort of in reverse. Ash, we just met at the PCA in Vegas. Right, you said you were just coming back from a trip visiting your family, your daughter in New York City. You both travel internationally. You've experienced cigar culture all around the world. What is it that you take home, and what are some of the things that you would wish your home countries and the Middle East could learn and adapt from the US, Europe, Southeast Asia, and all the countries you travel to?
Ash, you want to go, my friend?
So, sure. Thank you, Rai. So, first of all, the education, which is very, very critical and important, which keeps on the momentum on, which keeps on the excitement on, which we always receive whenever we travel to the rest of the world, especially for the PCA. Introduction to the new brands, getting to hear the stories from the principals, the importance of having the understanding your palate. So we try to bring back those learnings because as I shared that we are still on that learning curve. It's a market which is getting developed. It's not one of those cigar culture is still at a very, very nascent stage out here. And we bring back a lot of learnings, a lot of education, which we try to make it part of our conversation during the events or during the hosting of some kind of a guest out here. So that is what I bring back from these travel. And as we keep on repeating this, that if you don't do it with passion, don't do it at all. So it's the passion which keeps the flame alive. It keeps the audience intrigued. It keeps the guest excited onto the lounge to hear the stories, to hear the wonderful kind of interesting part of the cigar process, the starting from the harvesting and then coming into their hands and they're smoking that product. So that always keeps the flame alive.
So for me, been doing PCA and Intertobac now for over 8 years. For a lot of people, that's not a lot. For me, it's serious. 8 years of doing the shows. And during those 8 years, I don't want to turn this into something emotional, but during those 8 years, I lost a lot of key people in my life, including my brother, my father-in-law, who was one of my best friends. And those are great, huge losses. What this business has given me is a great big family across multiple countries, across multiple states. And the way they greet me, the way they receive me, every time I see each and every one of them is just magical. I took my wife with me last week to Hong Kong for the Oliva importers convention. Oh my God, it was just, she couldn't believe it. She was looking how we've just met, because a lot of these people I did not know because they're from importers of countries that I don't know, that I have not been to or have not met as individuals. And from the first breakfast, she was shocked how there was just something phenomenal that was bonding us. And this, for me, is a culture that I learned first and foremost out of the US, out of my first PCA visits, and how people took us under their wing and literally paid it forward with us, taught us, directed us, advised us, and really spent the time on their booths telling us how to go about things and all of that stuff, something that we as the Leaf Master decided to also pay forward to this part of the world. I remember the first time I met Ashish in my shop, and this was the direction that he wanted to go. There are other people from different parts of the world, and we continue to do that. So the whole family aspect, and I don't mean it in a cliche way because I truly mean it, the whole family aspect of this industry is just mind-blowing. And I'll keep it at that.
Amen. I couldn't have found a better final thought and parting thought for today's session. I want to thank all of you. It's been emotional for me and a sincere privilege and pleasure to share this session with you. And I take home so many great memories and experiences from this trip and many others, but particularly from shows like these, because of people like yourselves, Raid, Ashish, Coop, and all the people who contributed to today's show, Andy, Dr. Kathy, Oleg, Jeremiah. I want to thank all of you, and let's continue to build bridges, bring people together, and share great conversations over magnificent cigars. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I thank all of you for your contribution today and for all the tremendous work that you put in to help our industry grow and evolve, to nurture this culture, but most importantly, to strengthen relationships and build bridges amongst human beings from one part of the world to another. And in that sense, I wish all of you a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful Wednesday, and maybe we'll all see each other again, hopefully in person, but most certainly in this theater here at the Light 'em Up Lounge. So thanks all for tonight. Blessings and best regards from Doha. Be well.
Thank you. Thank
light
you.
on.
God bless.
Goodbye.
Safe travel.
Reinhard, wish you a safe flight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you all.